Hey everyone, welcome to Tea and Chocolate. My guest today is Warren Anderson. And I actually had Warren on my show in, I believe, April of 2020. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. And Warren actually shared his journey on Parkinson's and his relationship with it. If you want to go back to listen to that interview, you're more than welcome to do that. It's really, really inspiring. You will find that interview under his name as in Dustin Anderson, but today we're calling Dustin Ren, and he'll explain all that. And I just want to welcome you again, Ren, to the program. Thanks so much for joining me. It's really good to see you.
Good to see you too, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. The last time you and I chatted there was a piece that you felt that was left out of the previous interview. If you want to start by that, or also even wanting to, suggest or let us learn why I'm calling you Ren today rather than Dustin.
Yeah, let's start with that, because honestly, I don't remember what the last piece that I left out of the last interview was.
Oh, okay. I'll remind you.
Okay, cool.
All right.
So my birth name is Dustin Warren Anderson. And I feel like this experience with these physical symptoms that are labeled as Parkinson's, I don't use the phrase have Parkinson's because I don't have anything. I have a body, I have a spirit.
Awesome.
I have a journey, and this body that I've been gifted into as in the human form is experiencing symptoms.
Okay.
And so, as this is a profound experience to the journey of my soul, I know it's a process of transformation. So I want to embody every moment of that and go by. And Ren is an abbreviation of Warren, as I mentioned a moment ago. And this is a journey to the center of my soul. And I want to be reminded of what this sometimes very difficult experience is about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What prompted you to, what was the shift, I guess, from last time? What's been going on for you?
Well, the biggest shift is 2021 was very difficult. The heat dome, and I wasn't using medication at that point. And the biggest shift is that I started the medication. I started a light dose of medication. And that came from that was suggested. Last year was really difficult for both myself and my wife, Farah. Mm-hmm. And we sought guidance from Farah's guru, who's now my guru, Swami Paramahansa Yogananda, Vishwa Guruji Paramahansa Swami Maheshwarananda. Okay. And he said, go to a doctor. And he also said, doctors are God.
Really?
That's hard for me to buy.
Okay.
But what it did do is it made me more serious about if I'm a soul inside this physical human experience, mm-hmm. but I have to honor the physical body at the same time. And mm-hmm. if I'm suffering, my physical experience was so difficult last year. And when it was difficult for me, it was difficult for my wife. She had a really difficult time watching me suffer so much. And so the amount of mobility I've been given through the use of this pharmaceutical intervention is profound. And more profound was how much more serious I take this physical journey now. It's not just spiritual. I have to honor what the body needs. And if my waking hours are spent just trying to take 15 minutes to do up a pair of shoes, which was the case last year, then if I look at the pharmaceutical intervention, which is great, which has its place.
Yes.
And as long as I don't give away all my power and become powerless to the system, and still am as proactive as I have been from the beginning, then I can be more productive and I'll even say less of a burden to my wife. She never articulated it that way, but it was really difficult last year. And I'd say, yeah, like I say, that's the biggest thing. And to accept that if everything is part of God, then the pharmaceuticals are a part of God's plan as well. The challenge I have, so this one neurologist that I was seeing, who I dubbed Dr. Doom. He I asked him what was in these things, in the drugs. He said, I don't know, not my job. Go talk to a pharmacist. Are you fucking kidding me? It's your fucking job. Like, and I, like, so there's two main chemicals in this. There's the levodopa, which is what the brain's apparently deficient at the moment. And then but it has a challenge getting past the blood-brain barrier. So they have this other chemical, carbidopa. And I want to know what the shit's made of. Couldn't tell me, didn't want to tell me, didn't want to make the effort. Okay, fine. I'll talk to pharmacists. Pharmacist puts me onto this. I find out that this drug is made by a company called Apotex, a Canadian company. And just so happens that a number of years ago, not very long ago, the CEO was murdered. And in my mind, if someone gets murdered in Canada, because this is a Canadian company, someone's in the cycle of that negative cycle around people that would murder you, you're a dirtbag. So that just affirmed that my distrust of pharmaceuticals. So I'm balancing my own sort of innate distrust of the system and the benefits that I'm getting from it at the same time, based on this trust that I have of my guru Swamiji. It's a dance. Did I answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand it well. So prior to this particular medication, had you taken any meds?
No.
Do you? Go ahead.
Because I'd heard from other people who saw their parents' brains melt from this shit. Not necessarily this stuff, because it's the lightest dose. And when I decided to actually do so Dr. Doom, when we first approached him,
yeah,
and I say Dr. Doom because I'm like, and at one point I'm like, they're just like, everything's about downward spiral of doom, which is why I dubbed him Dr. Doom. And by the way, he recently broke up with me because you'd think that a doctor would be grateful that somebody's participating in their health rather than just saying, give me a pill. He wanted no part of it. He wanted me to just give away all my power.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. I just don't see that as serving anybody, to be honest. Mm-hmm. And so when we first approached Dr. Doom, he's like, we asked to get some help from the government, like to file for disability tax benefits. Even though I don't feel disabled, I certainly fall into that category. I certainly am worthy of that by the standards of the system.
Yeah.
And so we approached him and he said, no, I'm not going to, he said, I'm not going to do it unless you take the drugs that I prescribe to you.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, fuck you. Like, fuck you.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't ask if I could swear again. Sorry.
You know what? Just whatever.
Well,
all good.
I've had several moments with neurologists throughout this process. Like the first one that I saw, Hinel, she was like, I want to study you. Fuck you. I'm not a lab rat. I'm not a fucking lab rat. That and a study by scientific standards is to control all variables and to be far more diligent. If you're going to see me every 3 months to 6 months and say you're going to study me, you're fucking lazy. Or you're trying to blow smoke up my ass, neither of which is appealing.
What's lazy about that?
Well, in a scientific study, you try to control all variables, right? Like you have this dude taking pills.
Yeah.
You want to control the diet, the sleep, everything about that, so you know what's working and what's effective. In a lab, that's why a lab is created, because it's a scientific method. You have your desired outcome. And if there's multiple variables that you can't control, then you don't know what's working. That's the scientific method. And it just shows a high level of ignorance to say that you're going to, or expecting me to be ignorant about the scientific process. If you're going to, because if you have no input on the human existence is complicated. And to think that pharmaceuticals are the only aspect of the human existence is absurd. It's like we have emotional interactions with people, our sleep, our job, our travel. The human experience is complicated, and to try to reduce it down to just pharmacology is fucking ignorant. Woo. Well, it's true, right? And this one, actually, the best guy that I've had,
Mm-hmm.
the most human of all the doctors I've dealt. Well, no, the most human is my naturopath, but the most human of all the people in that realm is this gerontologist. And I told him, I said, the most human person I've met in the neurology world. I said, but that's a really low bar. And he's like, yeah, it's because I'm a gerontologist. So I'm 51 years old and I've got a gerontologist. It's pretty hilarious.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, but he, like I said, he's a cyclist like I am, and he's more human. Like, but like once again, that's a really low bar.
Is he the gentleman that's prescribing you this medication?
Yeah, he's the one that prescribed me. The neurologist that just broke up with me, Dr. Doom.
Yeah.
He was a neurologist, but oh God, our system is broken. Our system is so broken. And
Yeah.
when someone says they call it the Canadian healthcare system, bullshit. It's the disease management system. When you're prescribing people to fucking eat dairy and that drinking Coke is okay and washing like a high sugar, like that, it's just dumb, and not looking after your sleep and all these other factors that are part of like living a healthy, productive life. The human existence is complicated, and for us to look after the entire, and for us to be healthy holistically and completely, it takes discipline.
It takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and what we're not told is
Mhm.
that when discipline comes incrementally. I'm so much more disciplined. I go to bed at 8:00 now.
Mhm.
It's amazing, and I have a job now, which is amazing, and I have all these things because I'm disciplined, and I have to be disciplined because this is difficult, and I feel like I'm getting closer. But I work with a guy that's diagnosed, that carries the diagnosis of schizophrenia,
Ah.
and he's not disciplined, and he'll get really, really messed up
Mhm.
because he just doesn't. He'll drink coffee and beer and not be on Facebook for 4 hours and do all these things that are like really harmful.
Mhm.
I rant.
Now, yeah. Now you mentioned that you see a naturopath.
Glenda Laxton, she's the bomb.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you see Glenda as well, or we
No, I remember your wife Farah mentioning her, and I know that she knows how to handle very well, in fact, pharma and natural medicines quite well.
Yes.
Yes. I was just curious about that. I know that you and Farah live a very, I would say, clean life in terms of your diet,
Yes.
and supplements and such like that. So that certainly helps along with just out of curiosity, what was her response to the fact that you decided to take the meds? I'm sure that she's probably supportive of the journey.
She is. She was at the beginning of this. She said, don't burn any bridges down with the system because you might need it at some point.
Right. Right.
And she was right.
And I think that that's something to, to mention today, only because, I've heard some comments, particularly around COVID, and how I know, a couple of naturopaths who've taken the COVID shot, and they would be like judged for it. You know what I mean? So it's like everyone has their physiology, reasons, different, all that sort of stuff. So I think that's really important to point out that naturopaths are inclusive in that way. They're not so extreme on either side, or at least they can be, from my experience.
They're human too, right? Even
Sure.
doctors, even Dr. Doom, he's a human being, and I've got to be able to see him that way too.
Sure, absolutely.
The human existence is complicated, and we all are on the spectrum of anything, really.
Of some. That's true.
Yeah.
One of the things the thing that I wanted to mention that you had mentioned to me in private that we didn't get to talk about was the how much you cultivated this the lesson of gratitude.
Hell yeah. Gratitude.
Yeah.
Gratitude. And gratitude is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing practice, and it's been so useful and profound for me over this last several years. And I'll bring it back to a story. So I got a job. I've been a cyclist, serious cyclist, for a long period of time.
You are, I know.
And I walked away from it for a period of time.
Right.
And I've just recently started working at a bike shop here in Nanaimo. And this young woman, this young mother and her two daughters came in, and the young mother was talking about the one daughter not having confidence and having anxiety and all these things, falling over on her bike and all these things. And the other one daughter is talking about this one daughter, and these two people are talking about this one person and not letting her talk about herself. And I saw this dysfunction, and I heard that she's fallen over and stuff. So I asked, when they came back to pick up their bike from repairs, I asked if I could take I'm an instructor at the shop, and I said, I'm the instructor of the shop. Can I take this person out for a ride? And the mom was really grateful. And what I did on this short ride was I just pumped this young girl, this 10 or 12-year-old girl, up just with positive affirmations, or just positive reinforcement, of which this young mother probably just didn't have the capacity for. She obviously had her own anxiety piece in this as well. Mm-hmm. And when we returned after this 15 or 20-minute ride with this girl, and the girl was beaming, the mother acknowledged it. And the mother said, you're beaming right now. Why can't I do this for you? Oh, I feel for the mother, right? She's doing the best she can. And so the advice that I offered them was within the realm that they could accept, of take small increments of testing your skills and blah, blah, blah. But I would have also added a daily gratitude practice at every meal.
At every what? Sorry, meal?
Every meal. I actually started the day off with gratitude practice too. It's mostly for people too. Like I'm so grateful for this job as well. This job is a part of the healing journey, because this job it's my dharma. Like being able to interact with this 10 to 12-year-old girl and just tell her how wonderful a person she is, that people in cars won't run you down if they can see you. Just stuff like that. Right.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful. You never know where our teachers or those moments are going to be, right? Those small miracles in life. Now, for those listeners or watchers that are not on the yogic path, can you just explain, because you just used the word dharma?
Life purpose.
There you go. Okay. Lovely.
Life purpose. Your dharma is your life purpose. And I've been wondering what that is. When I was a children's performer for 20 years.
Yes.
And I thought my dharma was to be a role model for millions of Canadian children.
Okay.
I tried, and I gained lots of life experience.
Yeah.
And I believe I touched some people. And maybe the dharma, each individual's purpose changes in their lives as well. It's possible. I'll say that I was also on a bike ride with a 70-year-old woman because I'm at an electric bike shop. And so we're teaching these people how to use electric bikes. I'm teaching people how to use electric bikes. And to be just affirming every ride I go on, I'm just like, you're doing great. And that's what people need to hear. Because no matter what, every one of us is just doing the best we can in that moment. Mm-hmm. Even Dr. Doom.
Exactly. Well, right. I love that you got hired.
Mm-hmm.
I just for the audience sake, I know Ren and his wife Farah for many, many years. So I want to say that as an observer, I guess, like looking outside and just knowing you and the things that you've done in the past, it's it feels like all those seeds were planted for this moment. What do you think?
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you said you're happy that I got hired.
Yeah.
Yes, I have this physical manifestation of tremors and wonkiness from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a vast cycling experience, vast compared to anybody else.
Right.
And yeah, like you say, the seeds are planted. These skills were gathered throughout this lifetime, where I have the skills. This company's really happy. Like, they're just so grateful to have me, despite my, like I say, wonkiness from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
As you've spoken today, I've written down some notes, and I'm going to delve into some of the things that you've said. But before I do that, apart from the medication, was there something else that was new in this journey, like a healing tool or modality for yourself?
Vibro Acoustic Therapy.
Oh, okay.
So
Sounds
I had
interesting.
so there's this principle in physics called entrainment, and you can see entrainment videos on YouTube where you put two metronomes or two TikTok clocks together, and at the beginning of this experiment, they'll TikTok at different cadences, but over a short period of time, they'll TikTok together. It's called entrainment. It happens with animals. It happens with women's menstrual cycles that are in large groups. One thing I noticed when I was in dance school, all the women, their menstrual cycles synced up together.
Mm-hmm.
That was difficult at times.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Wow. It's difficult because as a mid-20s male that grew up in a redneck environment, I was not the most skillful. So I brought it on myself at times.
Okay, that's cool.
So entrainment. So I measured the tremor at 280 to 288 beats per minute. So this goes 280 to 288 beats per minute. I thought, could I entrain the tremor with sound and then turn it off with sound? So then I discovered Vibro Acoustic Therapy, or physioacoustic therapy. So this therapy was developed in Finland in the 70s and 80s by a guy named Ili Ukuhuka or something. I don't know. And so it was developed then, and they make these, essentially what it is a chair with a bunch of sub-bass transducers in it that pump vibrations into the body. And to buy a chair is $10,000.
Wow.
Yes. Or make your own chair, of which I did.
Oh my God.
So I made my own chair. I bought a vibroacoustic pad called the VTS 1000. I tried out this methodology first, and then I made my own chair, and I recently just completed it recently. So I'll sit in the chair and I'll vibrate for half an hour at 40 hertz, and it changes things. It's very interesting. And so in this search about this modality, I also found that Sir Wilfrid Laurier in Ontario University did actual research with this modality decade and more ago. And this has been researched quite a bit. Their recommendation was 40 hertz. I'm finding I'm getting better results with 30 hertz. So the challenge with, because they found, like this, like I said, there's been lots of research done. As far as from the Canadian perspective, all of it's in Ontario. And I reached out to several of the scientists that were on the studies, and I did lots of combing of the internet. And there's people, the challenge with this modality is, I think, it's simplicity in the mechanics of it, the creation of the vibration. I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors around it, to be honest. I don't think it's not, from my perspective. I possibly have a higher mechanical knowledge and musical knowledge than the average person, but $10,000 for a chair, it's a lot of money.
So how did you actually come across the therapy?
Well, like I say, I had this thought that if I could entrain the tremor with sound, I just started plugged in entrainment, Parkinson's, and just started Googling that way. And then it brought me down through this long, sneaking, winding path in January of this year about that. Cause I thought, I don't want to stay in the drugs. Because if the carbidopa, if they melt the brain is the term that some people used about watching their parents on the drugs. And one of the challenges is people, I mean, it's more complicated than just melting the brain. People give their power away to doctors for once. They don't make any change, generally don't want to make any changes. They want a magic pill. Doesn't exist. And then they allow themselves to be over medicated because they want all the symptoms to go away all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm willing to accept that some of the times I'm going to be wonky and it's going to work in and out. And if I don't stuff myself, like with food, and make sure I'm disciplined with my rest, and I get lots of exercise, and I don't push too hard, then everything works really, really well.
Let me ask you this. First of all, I think that's fantastic and absolutely genius. What, yeah. So when it comes to, say, dollars and census here with regards to Parkinson's fundraising and such, are they, in your opinion, do you think they're doing the right thing? Or like, are you sharing your experience with your new physician?
Dr. Doom wanted no part of it.
Okay, fine. But what about
you want to hear? But the gerontologist. So the last time I saw this gerontologist, and I'll actually see him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Dr. Coyle.
Is he in Nanaimo?
Yes. And I posed the question to him because I thought, okay, these doctors, they have a base of knowledge and they could be partners in this journey. They could be team members on this journey. Right. Yeah. I'm trying to let go of my distrust and disdain of this whole system and see them as people. It's difficult. So but that, who am I to, when I feel dehumanized, for me to dehumanize someone else is stupid, right? I'm just repeating something that I don't like myself. So I acknowledge my own ridiculousness in this situation.
Okay.
But I posed a question to him. What do you know? You know, pharmaceutical interventions. Do you know anything else that would be useful to me? No.
Great
okay,
question.
Fine. Well, for sure, right? I don't want to ask him questions about if he doesn't know anything about Vibro Acoustic Therapy, I'm just wasting his time and mine because I'm beating my head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
And by the way, Dr. Doom was offended by that question. Anyway, and also Dr. Coyle was like, he's like, patients that just do the drugs make my job easier. Almost word for word. Fair enough. People that just see him as a parental figure, that's mostly his words. See him as a parental figure and just do what he says makes his job easier. Well, sorry, fella. My life ain't about making your job easier. My job is to recover from this, and I'm willing to do the work.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but it's work too, right? It's effort. It's effort to look at myself, because my position is that the anxious and highly adrenaline driven way that I've spent the first 40 some odd years of my life before the symptoms started arriving, the adrenaline system took over and it was always on high alert. I was always jacked and high alert and very abrasive. Some people would describe me as, listen, abrasive at times. Totally, right?
Love you.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's totally right. So because I was always so afraid. I was so afraid of being abandoned, of being abused, of being attacked, of life, of myself. And so the transformation, and I acknowledge that that's what put me in this position. The Western medical system says, we don't know. I know what the situation is for me. And it's been affirmed by everyone I've spoken to with these symptoms. Everyone had some serious trauma. And and lots of people have trauma that don't experience these symptoms. Fine. But lots of people have, but different bodies, different biochemistries, different physiologies interact and have different weak points. Not everybody gets cancer the same way either, right? That have the same things. I personally believe, from everything I've read tons of books, all on the alternative hippie spectrum, of course, of natural healing and stuff. And they all talk about the emotions will sit in your body. And if you think, what does an animal do when they're scared? They shake.
They shake.
And if you're constantly scared, what's your body going to do? It constantly shake. To me, that seems logical. It's very logical. And if you never wind down, which I never did prior to this, then it's going to get locked in the body. Okay.
Yeah.
This is how I've been. Now the challenge is to change. And I'll say that all the work that I've done, all the books that I've read, all this meditation, all the practices, all of the effort, all of the counseling, all of it, I'm so much less fearful than I've ever been. And I'm so much more physically vulnerable than I've ever been. The combination is amazing.
Right. I mean, I think with folks who put their trust in physician, like their full trust, okay, and that are probably not exploring things outside of the system, I think there's a lot of it that has to do with fear, obviously. That's a big one.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead, finish your statement.
I think that's all I want to say.
So in people that I've spoken to that have, like my stepmother with cancer, and breast cancer,
right,
and other people and you and I having conversations about your journey as well, and other people that I've spoken to that have dealt with, it's the worst part of the physical experience of these physical transformations is the fear, by above everything else, the pain, the discomfort, the wonkiness, all of it. If the fear sucks the life sucks the joy out of life. Anxiety is brutal.
Yeah.
You deal with the fear, then you can get on the path more.
Right. Yeah.
Is my opinion.
That's a good way of putting it, isn't it? Okay. Surrendering to some of the teachers. Okay, so your yoga guru, who suggested that you take this medication, what about if he didn't make that suggestion? Where do you think you'd be today? At the end of the day, you had to trust yourself. You surrendered to a certain extent, and it's regardless of
for the first time in my life, just to add that in, surrendered for the first time in my life. So we can continue.
No, I was just going to mention also mindset, right? Because in either way, you've chosen, and from my perspective, from what I know of you, even prior to these experiences that you're having, is, you're a very strong-willed individual, and and I think the truth is really important to you. To the amount of integrity is also really important for you. And it takes a lot of courage and a strong mindset to make these decisions, regardless of which direction you would have taken.
Yeah. I guess I don't see neither a possibility, because the conventional path is a downward spiral of doom. And I've seen, if I reflect back on my life, I've seen so much growth through suffering. I mean, that's how I do things. Whatever. What can you do? I've been an extreme person my entire life. At 24, I was commercial fishing and I wanted to dance. So I sent up a dance audition, and 1 week I'm covered in fish blood on the west coast of Canada, west coast of Vancouver Island. Next week, I'm in my first ballet class. I rode a motorcycle around the entire continent of Australia, and on and on and on. These extreme moments. I personally believe that I manifested this to transform into the next better version of myself. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult. But my life is so much better because of it.
Mhm.
And like, it just is like, I was in tears when I came back from a ride when this family left the bike shop the other day. I was in tears because I was just so grateful that I had an opportunity to lift the spirits of this young person who was telling me that she's got a chronic, this 10 or 12-year-old is telling me she's got a chronic pain disorder. And I wanted to tell her, no, you don't.
Mm.
You don't have to bear this label. This label does not define you.
Right.
I didn't. I listened to her instead because I don't think she gets listened to. And you know, her, not to negate her mom's best efforts, because her mom's doing the best she can. We got a sense that she was a single mom too. I grew up with a single mom. It's difficult. Life is difficult. And that's ultimately probably one of the greatest lessons I've learned through this, despite my own intense difficulty and shame and all this challenging path that I've traversed. I've realized that everyone suffers. Everyone has everyone has a tough battle. Everyone. And I didn't know that before. I just didn't. I was too wrapped up in my own fear.
Right. Yeah.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting how intense, and the suffering is physical, sure, but the suffering is also more emotional, because being a 5'7" man who saw himself as an athlete, I'm a runt, and that's fine. But I was constantly, through most of my life, I was trying to prove that I was bigger.
Right.
Trying to prove that I was tough,
Right.
strong, and stronger than everybody, faster than everybody. And sometimes I was. Sometimes I wasn't. And if I was, I felt good about myself. And if I wasn't, I felt like shit. And I pushed harder, hurt myself more. I'm so not missing that person.
Hmm.
And they'll come up from time to time. And to have compassion for that person and the struggle. So we have a cat visiting us right now, Chloe. And we've been wanting to get a cat for a little while. And Chloe is an indoor cat, and her mom, who's a close friend of mine, lets her out on a leash. When we got home, like, Chloe's been with us a couple of days now, and my wife and I were going out to the garden yesterday, in the first day, and I thought, well, Chloe goes outside, I'll take her outside with me, right? Leash her up so she doesn't go away. And so I pick her up. She's not all that comfortable with it. I put her, she starts doing the cat wriggling thing. I put her down outside, tie her up, and then she's chewing grass, doing her cat thing, and she's doing fine. And then she knocks something over and she starts losing her shit. And I'm like, I get really frightened, because I'm like, oh my God, when I was a child, they brought up all this experience of a child. I grew up abused as a child. And in fairness to my mother, my single mother, she did the best. She did better for me than she had for herself. And at the same time, it was very difficult. I grew up with never trusting, and I was physically and sexually and emotionally abused and it planted seeds of fear. And when I had animals as a child, I would abuse them too. Obviously, I didn't know any better, because I personally believe I was just modeling the behavior that I was exposed to. And all that came up when this cat was freaking out, when Chloe was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I'm harming this creature. Somehow she wriggles her way free of the leash, of the harness. And then she runs out to the outside our fence, onto the sidewalk. And all this baggage from the past, like, oh, you're going too far, you fucked up, you're gonna hurt this creature again. And all this old baggage came up for me. Luckily, we got her back inside. We opened up the door and she ran back inside the house. Oh, so grateful. And the point of telling this is that stuff is still there. It's self-denial, and that all this baggage that I've carried from a childhood that I believe that I chose in a previous lifetime to learn these lessons. And I'm cool with that.
Right. Right.
But it was hard, man. When she went back inside, I just collapsed on the ground. I felt so much shame because I tried to do the right thing by giving her the freedom to be outside. And in the end, ultimately I'm not at fault because I was trying to do the right thing. But a fear that I hadn't experienced in such a long time of being misunderstood and being the abuser, which was not my intention. It was powerful. It was a powerful moment. I'm grateful for it. And Chloe's, she's all right. She's all right. Thankfully. Because I would, I had this, the mind goes to her running onto the street and getting run down by a car and breaking the heart of my friend Amanda and all these things. But that's not the reality. The reality is she went back inside. But then to let that go. Let go. Yeah. I hope that made sense. It's interesting, the journey.
Yeah, we never know. I guess it kind of solidifies what I was saying earlier about we just never know where the miracles are going to come from and what situation, so I guess it just presented another opportunity for you to take your healing to the next level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Right. So what's important for you today?
To stay in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that when I first started working at this bike shop,
yeah,
my boss is amazing. So I manifested this job with this boss. That's amazing. Like the owner, the fact that they hired me too, right? I was like, I want to give it a try. I want to try,
Yeah.
I can start working 3 days a week, 4 hours a day. Let's give it a shot. I have all this experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to serve. I love cycling. My resume shows it, blah, blah, blah. They're willing to give me a try, despite being wonky.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously benefit number one. But then my boss, who's a 71-year-old former A&B Sound manager, not a cyclist.
My God.
The guy's amazing.
Sound, Jesus, yeah.
A&B Sound brings you back, eh?
Yeah, for those of you, just to share, A&B Sound is one of the original record stores in Vancouver. And by the way, we're in Canada. I'm in Vancouver, so to speak. And Ren is on Vancouver Island. And he's mentioned IMO. So A&B Sound, oh my God. Okay, continue.
So A&B Sound was a
That's
franchise
awesome.
A&B Sound was a very popular franchise back in the days of cassettes and CDs and vinyl.
Yeah.
And he doesn't come from a cycling background. So and our technician is this young man that's got schizophrenia.
Right.
And he's challenged and he's undisciplined too. He creates his own suffering, as we all do.
Yeah.
And so I come and he's also a PhD in physics.
Oh my gosh.
He's out there. He's totally out there. And he's interested, but he struggles. He struggles emotionally.
Oh.
And he's a technician, but he's also not a cyclist. So I come with this depth of knowledge of cycling. And for the viewers, I've cycled across Canada a couple of times. We cycled around the western tip of Cuba up to the Haida Gwaii. We were car free for 8 to 10 years. And during that time, I was cycling on average about 15,000 kilometers a year. I was cycling a lot.
Yeah, incredible.
Lots of different bikes. And
bikes you put together, no?
Bikes that I put together, bikes that I manifested. The bike that we rode from Vancouver to Ottawa was a back-to-back recumbent tandem out there. I was just really into it, really into supporting it. I was also ran the Bicycle Shorts Film Festival in Vancouver. On and on it goes. What I was like during that time when during the heydays of Lauren and Farah doing the podcast together. And so I come with all this knowledge and I guess my point was just saying, like, I've got this boss that supports it. The other day, he wants me to take it easy on myself. So I was signed up to work. I was hired on to work 3 days a week. I'm working almost full time now, which is a huge sign of recovery.
Bam.
Boom.
Bam, boom.
Boom, bam. Boom, bam, bam, ba-dam. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So really, really good. Really, really good.
Yeah.
And so, and even like this Saturday was really full day. And so I get this amazing support. I've only had one other job where I felt like I worked as a team, and the manager and I are really, really work really, really well together. And he trusts my judgment and my experience. And he's the one that decided to have me teach people how to ride the bicycle. I had the thought at the same time, and he put it into play. And people to be honored and affirmed and appreciated, and positive affirmations and positive reinforcement when they're learning how to ride an electric bicycle, because electric bicycles can be like motorcycles. Our bikes are powerful. And when you're in your 60s and the bike pulls you back, it's disconcerting at first. But when someone tells you you can and you're doing great, and they are, right? It's completely sincere. And that's all everyone needs to hear, is that you're doing great. All the listeners, you're doing great. We're all doing great. We're doing the best we can. And for us to acknowledge our wins and to be grateful for what we have. And we've got a lot, especially those of us living in Western Canada. We are so fortunate. We are so fortunate. This is such a crazy time in history. And even, I'm certainly, we're so fortunate. Anyway, and
I would agree.
And I share my gratitude with my boss all the time. I'm like, I'm so grateful for this job. Even the owner, I'm like, thank you so much. And I think it's out there, but it feels so natural just to be like, I really like this job. Thank you so much. I'm not sure I answered your question though. I did something there. Something happened.
You did. Okay. So what if Swabiji, that's his name, right? The guru?
Yeah, told me to do something else.
Yeah.
I would have done it.
Okay.
He also told us to come to the Czech Republic a month and a half ago. And so we went to the Czech Republic.
You went to the Czech Republic?
We went to his ashram. So he's got an ashram,
yeah,
an 18th century castle in the Czech Republic in a place called Strilky. He said, come to the Czech Republic. So we showed up and we came back stronger. And that was difficult. Oh, the Czech Republic. So most of the disciples are Eastern European, Hungary, Czech, Slovakia, Slovenia, Ukrainian, etc. And so we roll into this thing, and I've done yoga retreats before. Obviously, Farah runs them, and I've done this sort of thing before on a smaller scale, because they'll have hundreds of people at the ashram, and people are like on the same path, right? Generally, a Western yoga thing is people pretty friendly. These are Eastern Europeans that grew up in communism, so they don't trust anybody. They're really cold. So it was really weird. Like, we're showing up to this yoga ashram and people are not friendly. We're all there for the same thing. And there's going to be language barrier with some, but people are like stoic. And I guess because in the communist days under Soviet rule, people were encouraged to rat on each other. So they don't trust. So there's this generational distrust. And okay, I have compassion for it, but it's culturally really weird. It's just so strange. So we went there for 2 weeks to this Strilky. And that was interesting because I'm not generally a joiner of things. And I was there to take mantra initiation, to become a disciple, because the advice that he gave me last year changed everything. I can't deny it, right? I can't deny his help was right. I grew up as an atheist. And this last 6 years or 7 years or however long it's been of spiritual transformation has changed my opinion. When I look back on my life, there's been just too many moments where I've looked at where just too many things have fit in when they really shouldn't have, or not shouldn't have, but coincidence just seems, I don't buy it anymore. I believe I'm the strong experiencer that things happen for a reason. Like the fact that I'm with my wife, who grew up as a Muslim, and I grew up as an atheist, and I was pretty conspiracy atheist at the time when we met. And we met shortly after, like a month after September 11th in 2001. And then I got caught up in all the conspiracy and all the anti-Muslim rhetoric and all that nonsense that was being promoted. And then I met this gorgeous Muslim woman, and my whole life turned around, boom, just like that. At the most anti-Islamic time in history, more in this region, I would say. I met this amazing woman that grew up in that. She did wear the hijab or the burqa, or very moderate sect of Islam. So,
Yeah.
as you know, but the fact that I met her, and now if I were to, if being going through these physical symptoms and not have her in my life, I'd be a wreck. It's her spiritual grounding that has influenced my life for me to have the perspective that I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no coincidence in my mind of that.
Yeah.
None at all.
Yeah.
And the gratitude and positivity that she brings and she infuses to the entire ecosphere around her is, as you know, is incredible. And I'm so fortunate to have her in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's very, very gifted in that sense, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, we just had our 14th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's a huge life
Fantastic.
accomplishment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good for you both.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So I just want to highlight some things that you've said in closing. So perhaps if some
You want to close? You want to shut this down? I feel like we gotta close.
yes and no, because this is an awesome combo. I think that, you said a lot of great things today, a lot of great messages about, that you're experiencing symptoms of, you're in the process of transformation. This is the journey to your soul, what else? You're honoring both your journey soul, but you're also paying attention to the physical journey, and you're finding your way in it, all the healing that you've been doing past, present, and as you continue to do. If people are interested in the Vibro Acoustic Therapy, I think that they should connect with you if whoever's watching, pass this message along.
They can connect with me through you at this point, because I don't have anything.
Yes, absolutely.
I'd be happy to talk to anybody that wants to.
Thank you.
Anybody that wants help with this.
Yeah. And your daily gratitude practice.
Daily gratitude. I'd say, yeah, that's powerful.
That's big. Yeah, it's big. Do you actually write that down, or are you just vocalizing it?
Both.
Both.
I do journal. I've actually started doing dream work too.
Okay.
And the theory about dream work is that the brain doesn't shut down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if this is a moment, if this is an emotional, spiritual personality transformation,
Yeah.
then if I can use that 8 or 10 hours a day that I'm in bed, obviously it's not always asleep,
Mm-hmm.
I can connect to that, then I can further along this process. I can be proactive.
Right.
Have you heard of precognitive dreams?
No, actually, I haven't.
So precognitive dreams is when you see the future. So it's based on the principle that time is not linear, and that the dream state is, you see the future, the past, but it's all part of it. And I've had some profound precognitive dreams that at the time I didn't realize. And I've dreamt about walking away from this experience completely fine several times. And I believe that's precognitive. I'm on that path.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's another discussion. I'd love to hear more about that.
You're closing me up. I'm ready to talk some more. It's all good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Lauren.
It's my pleasure.
When you want to do this,
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. And you look very cheerful and beautiful in your pink lipstick and your big hoops and everything. You've done a great job with your backdrop as well.
Oh, really? That's a painting I created back there.
Did a great job.
Abstract. Yeah. It's a new little thing. Anyway, you're awesome.
You too.
You know what? I just keep thinking of someone's mindset and choosing different ways to, trust themselves. Because I think this is also your basic message, is not only gratitude, but just to trust your own journey, and to follow that. And look at how it's turning out. I mean, it's fantastic.
Thank you. And it feels, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It feels fantastic too. I feel so lucky to have this life.
Yeah. And I'm really happy that you have like excellent health.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, really.
like 2-3 days ago, I was in Vancouver. I cycled on the ferry over, and I cycled 80K in the city. Did my naturopath, visited a couple friends,
Yeah,
and did some cycling on some old bike paths. It was, yeah, the health is improving. I couldn't do that last year.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay, Ren. Well, thank you so much. And
we'll do this again.
continued blessings. Yes, if there's any new discoveries and transformations that you're having on the journey, then you're welcome to come back anytime to share.
Thank you.
Okay.
Love you, Lauren.
Lots of love. Hang tight. Don't leave me yet. Okay, everybody. Thanks again for joining me today on Tea and Chocolate. And again, just a reminder to go back to April 2020. You can find the interview on YouTube and the social media platforms. You can see his Ren's first interview with me, and that's a bit of a different share. Kind of gets into the process of the actual experience, we'll call it that, of Parkinson's. And I hope that you've enjoyed today's segment, and I have so much. And thank you, and take good care of yourselves. All the very best. Bye for now.